Hi there, my name is Austin. I'm a senior product designer on the foundations team, and I'll be talking through some navigation concepts today. One of the first things that we wanted to look into, since I've joined the team, is the Hamburger menu that is in the global nav. So when I'm talking about that, I am talking about that little hamburger icon that shows up with the word menu next to it. Now, we've started implementing some user tracking to better understand how users are navigating through the global navigation context, as well as that menu itself. So below, I've highlighted a few areas that don't have tracking on them just yet, but based off of just even some of our user research that we've done and the verbatims that we've heard from that, these are less frequently visited areas. Primarily what we're seeing for that hamburger menu item is it's used for switching between groups and projects. But if we look through the click data, users are primarily using the user profile and the GitLab logo to go to places. Beyond that, they're looking for their frequently visited projects, probably their merge requests, and then beyond that, they're trying to find usually their project, sometimes their group. So with that, I've observed that users are somewhat avoiding the global search menu in favor of the search for their projects or search for their groups, depending on which dropdown you're in. And it's a shame because I'll hear them say they want to be able to look for them both in the same place, and they could use the global search to do that. So there's a strong gravitational pull towards this menu item, which we could definitely find a better solution for, at least in my mind. So I'm outlining a few of the goals that we want to do on the right here. First, we want to help reduce this visual clutter. If, for example, these yellow sections aren't useful to users, we really want to try and reduce the number of things that are right in front of them and focus on the most highly utilized paths. In addition to that, we don't want to necessarily create more friction, but we want to make sure that things are clearly organized. Because that's another thing that we hear back in our feedback is that things that are not necessarily the same will appear in the same area. So one way you could think of this is projects and groups could be thought of as like a scope, and the rest of these list items, maybe excluding the admin area, could be considered a type of like function. So milestones or snippets would be typically more of a function of a project, or perhaps in some cases a group, but it's kind of more of a feature rather than an area that you're going to go and grow and develop. So with that in mind, we've got 3 designs that are trying to incorporate those concepts by simplifying the navigation elements, focusing on those paths, and trying to help better distinguish the areas of function. The key thing that we really want to focus on is just that we're not going to negatively impact users' ability to find their groups and projects. That's already challenging enough for them, so ideally they come out with a simpler way to do that, but at least we don't want to impact that negatively. So the first idea I'm going to be sharing is one around using global search. There have been a lot of improvements with global search. One of the things I personally have loved is that you can actually search for your group or project or even recently visited issues or merge requests. To help with the discovery of this feature, instead of having that hamburger menu, users would interact with the search bar itself. This is a pattern that's been starting to appear in a number of products. And to keep this focused more on an MVC solution, we would keep things like the frequently visited list, which we know users would probably like more of a recently visited rather than frequently. That's more of a technical hurdle we need to get over in the future. And instead of giving them numerous links around groups and projects, just saying projects and groups, it takes them all to the same place anyways, and it's just one more click to whatever filter they would like for that particular scope. Noting that administrators also still need to get to the place they need to go, we're going to leave that here, and by default you still get some filters currently with the global search that we could keep it initially, but we could consider changing or removing becomes too much. So we would want to basically test, can users go find their starred projects? So we'd say, where would you go? See where they click. Ideally they can then go find their starred projects. We also want to at least acknowledge that those other areas in the product are not completely inaccessible. One of the things that we're going to be thinking about doing is moving that under a single link called dashboards. This would bring you to a single page with a left sidebar to help anchor those functions. So this would be spreading the dashboards across security, environments, operations, activity, milestones, and snippets. So instead of having individual pages for each, we would tie them on a single dashboards area to help use that left sidebar as an anchoring point and to travel between those things. You might be wondering, why underneath the user profile? Well, these dashboards are unique to each user. So the security dashboard is unique to me, the environments as well, and operations. This activity is scoped to my activity, the things that I'm following. These are a part of my milestones, and it's going to jump into my snippets. Yes, I could explore other snippets, but primarily these are all my things, which is what kind of leads me to believe it's best placed under the user profile. Which, if we go back to that data, the user profile is the most frequently sought after area for clicking. Now, if we went back to GitLab, again, this is the global search idea. Next, this one I'm calling the Navigator. So instead of using a hamburger icon, which can be a bit confusing because when you're in a mobile view, you'll see two hamburger menus, using a grid of dots to indicate that there is a way to switch. Now, this would be a similar interaction to what we were seeing with the global search, but we're trying to keep these two functions tied closely together. So this would be the way you switch between your scopes, and the search bar would be how you can continue to search for your groups and projects or issues. This would be a less dramatic change, but it would definitely change the menu to be more aligned with our typical drop-down style rather than the full layout that we have today. So again, we're going to be testing similar paths connected to those projects. How would they get back? And again, that user profile dashboard option is still there. And then the third option that we want to test is one that brings the scope out of the left sidebar so that it's always globally accessible. So I'll just jump back to the Navigator as an example. With projects or groups or the admin area, or is there any others? This is technically the security dashboard. You get the name of your project or group listed there, so we'll be pulling that up. This means that we have to give a landing spot in the left sidebar. So as a parent item, overview would be put there. The downside of that is we're adding another thing to this list, which we know is already pretty long, but this would help users always know where they're at, and it would continue to use that top left side as a navigational pattern. So from here, if I was trying to switch out of this project, maybe to go find all my projects, using that same kind of menu drawer as we had before, I could go and explore projects, and now my context has changed. Again, trying to focus on like where are you at currently. There is a little bit of redundancy just given the fact that we have page labels right now, as well as that being in the top as well. But just trying to keep that in mind. Users could still find those dashboards. Let's say we wanted them to find the security dashboard. This would be just trying to help focus like what are the different scopes you can have. So these are basically the places that you might be able to find that left sidebar, or rather just the collection of items that would be navigating to specific tasks. So just a quick run through again through all those ideas that we had. We have the drop-down option, which would appear in the global navigation. We have the Navigator using the dots as a switcher, and the global search to help pull in those results, as well as quick links to get to your groups and projects, the administration area, and other quick references. If you have any feedback, I would love to hear it.